Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxx TV Podcast 516. Sarah Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, coming to you from Estonia, just outside. Well, I'm in Tallinn, Estonia. And Johnny, well, please tell me you're still in the Milwaukee area.
I am in the
Otherwise,
Milwaukee
something
area.
really goofy is okay.
Yeah.
Whew. We
Yeah.
can't shake too many things up at once.
Well, we're shaking up the time. It's 2:00 on Wednesday in the Central time zone currently. Not wherever you
Central,
are.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Well, I always
Yeah.
hesitate to say, like, I was almost going to spit out Central Standard Time, but I'm like, is it standard or is it daylight?
Is it though?
I always, you know what? Daylight versus standard. I don't care what it is. It should always be considered CST. I don't care what time of year it is.
Yeah, that would make things a little bit easier for us.
I'm gonna die
I
on.
never know. And even when I made the post last night, I was like, do I put CDT, CS? And then I didn't want to bother going to look it up. So
Nope.
yeah. Anyways, 2 p.m. Central, and it's a little bit goofy. So thank you if you're here. Appreciate you guys for joining us. I know things are a little bit weird, or if you're watching after the fact, well, then maybe it's no big deal whatsoever. But yes, it is 10 p.m. EET, I think is what it's called. I am in Estonia at the moment, and I've been here for now a couple of days. Last week, I was not on the show. I guess you had Dustin Moray sit in, so thank you, Dustin, for doing so. That was right after, yeah, Krokle had happened. I am truly losing track of where I am and what's going on. That was right after Krokle. Again, you'll probably see some kind of video come out on my own, just to recap all the insane experiences and things that I had happen there in Norway, all in a good way. So tip of the cap and everything else to those guys, because truly an epic course, an epic event. I had a great host. They were great hosts as a tournament and as an operation. And then just a few days ago, we wrapped up the European Open. So today we'll talk about European Open, how that just concluded about 73 hours ago or so. And then I want to definitely get to talking about the European Disc Golf Festival. I had to leave there a little bit early. They were kicking off some of the activities tonight with we'll say an exhibition match, kind of like our All Stars is, but I cannot overstate it. It's unbelievable what is happening here in Estonia this week. So
I did
stay
catch
tuned because I definitely want to
yeah.
get to it.
I caught some social media videos of the long drive contest. Eagle throwing 600 plus feet. It seemed like they had quite a crowd there for that. So
yeah, like 1,000 people, maybe. Somewhere between 700 and 1,000, if I had to guess, tonight, just for an opening exhibition partly in some of the rain. Probably somewhere between 700 and 1,000 total people on site, maybe even more actually, but freaking insane. So
it feels a little embarrassing.
Galleries.
It feels a little embarrassing to our All-Star event that we hold every year, which kind of has been a little flaky to say the best at some of the way it's gone down the last few years. So we've got some things to learn, to put it mildly.
Yeah, well, and just to be fair, and again, not to get too jump on it yet, but to be fair, the song festival here in Estonia is, as you can imagine, hosts festivals and concerts and everything else with tens of thousands of people at it. I just can't think of a better venue right now that we've ever been to when you're talking about putting on the show that they are. And again, I'm excited to talk all about that. But first, let's start with European Open.
The European Open. Yeah, this past weekend, we had two divisions play, Terry, an MPO and an FPO, and both of them were exciting. Let's talk about FPO first, where we saw Kristen Tatar make the biggest comeback in major history. She was down, after the third round, she was down 7 to Evelina Salonen, who was at 9 under. Kristen was at 2 under, and Silva Saarinen was at 6 under. And all I kept thinking was, the FPO division never changes. Like, for years we've been seeing these types of where everybody thinks, oh, so it used to be Paige and Cat. Cat has a 5-stroke, 3-stroke lead. Paige has a 4-stroke lead. It's over. And then you would see something crazy. One would shoot well, the other would shoot poorly, whoever it was, and swings would happen. And all I sat back and thought was, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's just different names up at the top right now. But Kristen Tatar came out and shot a 10-12 rated final round, and Evelina Solomon shot a 9 over par, 908 rated round. They basically switched spots. Evelina went from first to fourth. Kristen went from third to first. Silva Saarinen made a good run at it, but just couldn't get it done at the end. She needed another stroke. It took a couple too many bogeys in that final round in order to kind of keep up with Kristen. Kristen kept it relatively clean, as you can imagine, with a 10-12, only taking 2 bogeys. And then Missy Gannon just kind of sliding into the third place. She wasn't really talked about hardly at all to win the event, which understandably she was never in the conversation to win. But she was able to get a podium out of this, and, by shooting a 997 final round, getting the last 2 holes, 17 and 18, she birdied them both. Had Silva been able to birdie one of them, we would have gone to a playoff. So overall, an amazing event with a ton of swings from the first to the second round, second to third, third to fourth. Just some really fun golf to watch. Terry, from your perspective, you were on site. What did you see?
There's also many of the obvious storylines when you talk about the amount of people out at the property. You talk about the addition of the new course of now having the Monster officially in play, and us not just playing the Beast, but then seeing 2 rounds at the Monster. The women, in my opinion, as fortunate as they could have possibly been, were able to complete all 4 of their rounds with quote unquote normal scheduling, which was very much a storyline for the weekend. Is that the MPO side, obviously some had to play as many as 35 or 36 holes on on Friday, so that we could be good to go for Saturday and Sunday, or whatever days those. I don't even now. I'm even confusing myself. Whatever it was, but yeah, there's a lot of golf. It was it was crazy to see both. The obvious things in terms of your top finishers on the FPO, and then MPO obviously had a ton of different storylines as well, featuring the likes of, Paul Macbeth, Ricky Wysocki being right there into it, Antala and Burr. I mean, talk about a way to finish out your final round. It was incredible. So, I'll just echo what you said on the women's side. What a battle back for Kristen. It talks about her tenacity. It talks about just the fact that you can never counter out. It also talks about, like, now that I don't want to call it scared. Now that is transpired, where she's made up that much on one person, or ultimately on 2 people, really, to get past them. Like, I feel like that opens the nervousness even more so, because it's happened once. And that may add confidence to Kristen, or it could to any player, but add confidence to Kristen. And at the same time, could partially demoralize not just the 2 that she got past, but the rest of the field, thinking, oh my God, just nothing safe. Now, there's no doubt about it. We all know Kristen didn't come out and shoot a course record 14 under to blaze past them in that set. She got a little help in that the 2 that were in front of her, in Silva and Evelina, clearly struggled, at mightily at sometimes. Did Evelina go birdie free in the final round?
She
If
did.
it wasn't birdie free, yeah. I mean, compare that to a day before.
3 doubles and 2 singles she took.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have that kind of
there.
final day. You can't have that kind of final day out there and expect to win. I mean, if you're just being honest with yourself, you shouldn't think, oh man, I should be able to go out and shoot a 7 over or whatever it is to close out my round, or close out a 9 over, a 9 over to close out her tournament, and think, well, I should still have won that. So that was on her shoulders. But I mean, just think about it though. What did Kristen shoot the day before? Literally, just 24 hours earlier, Kristen shot a +8. So it's kind of like they swap spots, so to speak. I mean, Kristen
Mhm.
in the third round shoots a +8. Evelina shoots a -5, or excuse me, Silva shoots a -5, and Evelina shoots an even. And then you go back out the next day, Silva shoots the even, Kristen shoots a -5, and Evelina shoots a +9 instead of a +8. Like, as funny as it is, maybe just coincidental as it all was, all those scores are so eerily similar. It's just a matter of who they were assigned to or picked up on that final day. So,
Yeah, you could honestly
um,
look at it and just say, based on just the individual score rounds, not the finish, not the comeback, like that, it could happen to anybody at any time. Like you could
uh,
argue there is no dominant player with the way Kristen played. She played well. She played really poorly at times. Like I think I heard a
yeah.
story. I think I heard a story from you saying like she was just distraught after the third round, understandably,
Oh, yeah.
and just it is. And it's amazing. I think Evelina has the same issue that I saw from Kat many years ago, where I called it kind of the snowball effect, where once she has a problem, and it's with Evelina, it's her putting, just like it was with Kat for a while, it snowballs. And it's like she loses all confidence, and everything goes downhill from there. Kat, for many, I don't say for many years, but for a few years, a couple years ago, had that same issue. She would just miss the easiest putts, and you could see it. Like I always gave her the first one. I said, okay, there's one. But if she gets another one, she's done. And Kat has been able to kind of overcome that, thankfully. And obviously we all hope to see Evelina overcome it because I think Evelina is a phenomenal talent on the tee. But it is I can only think about how much confidence this gives Kristen in the long run. And like you said, there's been memes for years about the guy in the rear view or the side view mirror. It's Macbeth.
Hmm.
He's coming for you. Every FPO player now has to think that for Kristen. Every one of them. And
Yeah.
not that she wasn't kind of always in the back of your mind, but to know she can rattle off a 1,010 or 1,030 rated round at any given point. But maybe you also think, she could also rattle off a 950.
Yeah, she could. The thing is, the
It's not
round that
likely.
she had in round, well, and 950 is obviously a bad day at the office for her.
Hmm.
The fact that her third round was what unofficially like a 909,
Is something like
nine
that.
zero six. I mean, obviously her numbers will tell you that is an anomaly. That is an exception. That won't even be counted in her rating. If I had to
No,
guess,
no, it won't.
because it's so low and standard deviation and Pythagorean theorem. I don't know, but nonetheless, like that shows you just how abysmal that day and that round really was for her. And so I kind of made the joke to her at one point. I think it was still when we were off air that she said something or other, maybe before we did kind of the longer interview after she had won, and I opened up Tournament Central with it. She said something or other about, well, it was exciting for the fans too, at least I guess. I'm like, yeah, Paul used to kind of make that joke about, like, if things didn't go his way, and then how it could at least be more exciting for the fans, and then more often than not, honestly, he would pull out and pull off the victory years ago. So I don't think anybody really wants to make it more exciting for the fans. I think she would rather have cruised in on a 6-stroke win or something silly like that, and not had the day that she did on Saturday. But nonetheless, it's drama that I guess we shouldn't even be surprised by at this point, right?
Hmm.
The top contenders were there. They were doing their thing, and in this case, Evelina just couldn't hold up to it, and Kristen was right there, just like, how I wish I could count the amount of times where you're like, well, but there's still a chance. Somebody said to me at one point, it was somebody in Finland said, well, until the final 9 holes, who really cares? It's kind of like, you give her a chance until the final 9 holes of any given tournament, and then that's when you maybe start to worry or not. And sure enough, she does what she does. So, of course, not to take anything away from your other top contenders, but what a scary feeling, as you said. So Silva, you just when you look at her rattling off what, 5 Pro Tour or 5 wins in a row, and then the back-to-back weekends where she doesn't win, she takes second, if I recall, right? Yeah, she took second at Krokl and then second at European Open,
Mm-hmm.
both to Kristen. So if you're second guessing or in any way sleeping on Silva whatsoever, obviously you need to wake up.
She's a top 5
because
talent, hands down. She's a top 5 talent. Again, we're gonna see better, hopefully, when she comes to Worlds and we get her up against Holland and Own, some of the other top 5 talent that maybe didn't make the trip over. But yeah, there's no question Silva is a top 5 talent.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry. Did you round out our top 10? Should I do that?
Yeah, go ahead and do that, Terry.
Yeah, rounding out the top 10. Well, I'll just repeat them. Kristen, your champion, of course. Silva Saarinen. Missy Gannon slid into that podium spot again. I interviewed her, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, cool." Like, she just kind of was doing her thing. She wasn't worried about going after the win, or really think she had a chance, so to speak, going into that final round. And it was just a matter of maintaining. And like you said, closing out strong to pick up those 2 birdies. Evelina Salonen falls to 4th. Kat Merch, Kaidi Asalu, both tie at 5th place at 3 over. Paige Pierce, another top 10. Certainly not an overall performance she still probably is happy with, but she's in the top 10. Then we go to Rachel Turton, Heidi Laine, tied up with Kaidi Tate, Ella Hansen, and Anniken Christensen Sten round out all your players who cashed. So there's your top 12, I guess, technically. So Laine, if you're looking at her scorecard from that final round, she was really getting it together and had a ton of birdies. Unfortunately, she had a triple bogey on hole number 3, which is what prevented her from having just a really damn phenomenal closing tournament, or closing round of that tournament. Sizable, really nice paycheck. Not surprising. Obviously, there's always kind of this conversion, and this was, how many was our field as full as it's normally been? That kind of conversation could be had. I mean, we only had 27, which is pretty light. If you look at most events, we're averaging 35, 40, 45, whatever that number is. I know it's somewhere around 40-ish. So to have only 13 at this event, like you said, missing out on a few of our locals from the States, but then also, not rounding it out with others from other neighboring countries, which was, I know there's a qualifier and everything else that plays into it, but that ultimately, that was a $8,173 paycheck for Kristen, and she's at 45,000 for the year.
That ain't so bad.
Yeah, ain't too shabby. All right, let's jump over to MPO.
All right, over onto MPO. Gannon Burr takes this one by 2 strokes over Ricky Wysocki and Paul Macbeth. Everybody wanted to see the Ricky Paul show this weekend, but Gannon decided to put throw a little wrench into the gears and get a victory over both of them. 4th place, Isaac Robinson. 5th place, Chris Dickerson. 6th place, Nicholas Antala. 7th place, Ezra Robinson, who was my dark horse to win last week. I picked him. That again, that's why he's a dark horse. I said, you know what? If someone's going to come out of nowhere to win, I think it's going to be Ezra. 8th place is Laurie Lettinen, and a tie for 9th place between Gilbert, Babcock, Burridge, Bell, Villeman. The Ricky Paul Gannon battle was a lot of fun to watch. Not going to lie. I mean, you always know when it's getting close to major time, Paul seems to kind of pick up the pace. And he plays well. He plays so well here. He played so well at the Monster. He really just kind of fluttered a little bit that last round, and even that was a 9 under. Like that's a phenomenal round. But when Ricky's shooting 13, course record, and Gannon's pulling in 11, I mean, Paul unfortunately just shot a little bit above his rating. Paul was so consistent all the event. What did he shoot? His first round was his worst round, and that was a 5 down. Then he went day
Mhm.
2. Well, technically it was day 2, but we all know it was day 3 because they got canceled day 2.
Round two. Yeah.
Yeah, he went 12 and 9, and then the finals he went 9. So just utter consistency, but not enough to keep up with Ricky and Gannon. Like,
Yeah, and just to correct you, he must have went 5, 7, 12, 9. Yeah,
5.
5,
Yeah,
7,
you're right.
12.
5, 7. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because I was thinking nobody shot 12 at Monster.
No,
But 12,
7. 12 total. Yeah,
it,
I read
it
the
does
wrong
it
one.
does play into, though, just before the tournament, I had a kind of I randomly went out and walked the Monster. I wanted to see it. It was 10 o'clock at night, so I got plenty of daylight, right? So I go over to the course, and sure enough, on the third hole, AB is out there throwing. I was like, oh, all right. And I said to him, hey, you mind if I just walk along with you? And I was like, what a better course preview could you get than watching AB throw every hole? And uh, so we walked through the course, and I remember halfway through, I just said, hey, what do you think is going to be hot score? He said, oh, if somebody shoots double digits, that'd be pretty crazy. However, I'd love to shoot a pair of sixes and get out of here at 12 under. Sure as shit, we saw 12 under was the hot score after 2 rounds. Granted, it was a goofy 2 rounds, but sure enough, 2 rounds, 12 under was exactly what was leading as we headed over to the Beast. So uh, AB had the numbers right. Unfortunately, he didn't get those numbers himself, but we saw that by Macbeth and whoever he was tied with, Macbeth and Burr, because Burr went 3-9 and was at 12 under, and Rick was 1 or 2 behind that or whatever it was. So yeah, that says a lot. That says a lot when someone like AB says, I'd be happy with a pair of sixes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just don't hear phrasing like that come from some of the best in the world
Not on most courses
at any point. So that's, yeah, exactly. So anyway, yeah, and then you see it's a little more balls to the wall when you head over to the Beast. Just it doesn't feel as quote unquote as beastly now, right? I mean, the monster doesn't the the monster just doesn't sound as treacherous, even if it's way more so. Not as treacherous or as challenging or demanding as just the phrasing the beast, but
I don't
yeah,
know.
the beast.
They're both
I don't know.
Beast versus monster.
Beast.
Monster. A beast, I feel like, is something that's recognizable. A monster is maybe not. I don't know. That's a good.
Well,
ask us in the comments. Tell you which one sounds scarier, the beast or the monster.
And do they do they need to do any rebranding? Oh, that's hilarious! Somebody already was talking about it in the comments. That's funny. I didn't even look there. I was super impressed with the course. I want to touch on that. I was under a misunderstanding that I felt like the property itself was new, but it certainly is not. It's been under development for many years now, and there's, I think, 27 permanent holes out there.
Oh.
But the configuration in which they played this to set up these exact holes to create this 18-hole version is considered the monster course. Because when I kept hearing Antala and a handful of others say, oh, I've played out here plenty of times, and I'm always like, I'm so confused. How have you been doing that? So it was just a misunderstanding on my behalf. But this is really the first time seeing this course in this configuration. And, there's a whole nother debate to be had, of course, about the mounds, particularly hole 6 and 18, and what you think of those greens. UC had said that there were 3,000 truckloads of dirt that were brought in for various parts of the course. That's not the only, not just on those 2 mounds, I doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But just think of that, 3,000 truckloads of dirt. That's insane. So when you see how manicured it is, how it looks, and what's going on out there, I love it. Obviously, there was one. I'm not even going to call it nitpick anymore, because there was enough people that clearly made issue of it. It sounds as if the T pads, I don't know if they're just worn and need to get replaced. I don't know if that's just not the most favorite length of artificial turf. I don't know, because I feel like you could also, if if you have 120 open players, not say a word about the T pads, but 40 do, 40 additional do, and I'm just making up numbers here. Like, when is it like you really do or don't have a problem, right?
Yeah,
Because
I
like,
think they're
what is
yeah.
that number?
I mean, it's
And
and again, it's hard to judge it based on the one person you see because the one person we tend to see slip is Paul, and that's. But unfortunately, we've also seen Paul slip on other turf tee pads in the
mhm,
past. He's
sure,
it's not unique for him, so you have to
no,
wonder. But if we are seeing this from other competitors, and I believe I saw on social media there was a few little minor quibbles, we'll say. That's
mhm.
great. They've got a year to figure it out. They will get it figured out. I guarantee. This is the type of establishment that if enough or even a few players are like, we'll just make up T17. It's got some flaws. Maybe we need to take a look at that. Maybe it's got a little dip in it. Maybe the fabric is a little loose. Maybe, it maybe just picked up a bunch of mud and it wasn't able to be cleaned off as well, because those turf tees, there's all sorts of different things you can do with them. But
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
yeah,
and that's just it. Is you're as someone just said on the board, you are never going to have tees or baskets that are 100% perfect for everybody. It's just not possible. You just you can't. There's way too many preferences and personalities, and then throwing styles both with your drive and with your putt, that you will never find a 100% uniform consensus, which I think is the same thing. You'll never find a consensus in the sense of saying this is the best basket in the world and this is the best tee
yeah.
pad surface. Just there's so many different people. I mean, we
Yep.
all know, you've seen the slow mos of Kelvin Heimberg and how his foot comes through on a tee
Yeah.
shot, and what happens with his foot and with the shoes that he wears,
Yeah.
which everybody second guesses, but yet he loves his shoes. I just don't think you can, account for literally every single person. So,
I
I feel like that's it. And this is again nothing they'll probably do anything about. Let me rephrase that. The mosquitoes out there can be
you can
uh, a full
that's
blown distraction,
that's
and
what I've heard.
clearly, mosquitoes can be bad. Everybody has a different tolerance to them, and you
I
can
hate
wear
them.
stuff, and I get all that. But sometimes, like, if it's the wrong time of day, and I know they're worse usually at dusk and such, but if it's the wrong, I would look down and there would be six different mosquitoes on me on one leg, where it's like, man, how many can I get with one swat of a disc? That could kind of become a game at some point. Now, in the daytime, it was a little bit better. Obviously, it can be really wet out there, and then we get the rains and the blah blah blah. At some point you're getting a little nitpicky, but
Mhm.
you're also talking about experience. You really are. Like, you can, if you have the best course in the world. I'm not saying this is the case, but if you have the best course in the world, but it's nothing but mosquitoes, yeah, that factors into how people regard the course,
Well,
and
I mean,
understandably, because
I kind of think
it
of
goes to their
like
enjoyability.
a place like Harmony. Was it Harmony Hills? Though
Harmony Bends.
Harmony Bends. Thank you. Where it's a phenomenal course. It just floods once in a while. Like you just, it's kind of along the same lines. Guess what? Some courses, as great as they are, can have flaws, and there are things you can do about mosquitoes. Obviously, you can fog maybe a week or two beforehand, things like that. It's a huge area. You're not going to get them all.
Hmm.
It's just I mean, there are solutions. We'll put in quotes that'll make things better, but yeah, but
Yeah, I
ultimately,
mean, even
it's
yeah, and that's why I say, even like fogging, there's other
mhm.
environmental impacts. Da 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 da
Yeah.
da. Like,
Who knows locally
I
what
understand
they're
all
allowed
that.
to do and whatnot. Let's real quick talk
Sure.
about the final the final two holes of the MPO round, which is really where things, Ricky was down by one going with I'm sorry, down by two with two holes to go.
Yep.
And he
Yep.
gets the birdie on 17. He takes the two on 17 while Gannon lets him back in it, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, and that was, I mean, clearly he's not rooting for it, but that was best possible
Mhm.
case
Yeah.
scenario for Rick. I mean, Gannon threw a shot that wasn't quite perfect, It hit off the light pole, and there was I'm standing, I don't know, 30 feet from where the light pole had hit, and I'm thinking, oh, that probably should have went out of bounds.
Well,
And
it looked like, and you probably had a better perspective than I did on camera, it looked like it was going to hit inbounds and possibly roll out of bounds. Like it was going to come in, it was going to touch inbounds probably somewhere. And then maybe, I mean, who knows with a forehand like that where it is.
of course,
But then again, it's also an inch or two probably from hitting that pole and ricocheting straight out of bounds. Like
exactly. So
there's so many things that could have happened, because if he goes out of bounds off of a roll, he hits inbounds and rolls out of bounds, he's right up by the basket. He's probably taking a circle 3. Probably.
more than likely.
He's saving himself a stroke. But just the confluence of events where it hits the light pole, stays in bounds, and then he just has a mental miss on a 30-some foot putt that hits and rolls. Was it even 30 feet? Gosh.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's so funny. I was so close. I feel like it was maybe just outside or just inside the circle.
Okay.
Somewhere in that area, and it's
like 10 meters.
Well, yeah, yeah. There you go. You're getting. I get it.
And it gets up and rolls.
We're holding these players though, and it's crazy because you're literally 3 to 5 shots away from winning this ginormous major, and we're just expecting him to make it because he's made everything else, and everything else seems to be going his way, and he misses it low or whatever it was, and it pops up and rolls, and he said, I remember him saying that he didn't think it should have even. It didn't, when it hit the ground, it didn't look like it should have. Well,
it's so hard.
How many times you could say that a million times about a lot of different shots that hit the ground, and that basket is on that hill for that reason. So
you can. Everyone has the choice to lay up. That's the nice thing. You can always lay up and give yourself the safe 3. But from whatever that misses from 10 meters, he's never laying that up. He's one of the best putters in the world. He's not laying that up, and that's the risk you take. Ricky was right there. Ricky stuck it right above the basket, and it tipped over. And there was no question what Ricky was taking. And then we go to the final hole where they are literally tied up going into the final hole now. And Paul throws a decent shot. He's out of it already.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky throws, well, technically Ricky threw first. Ricky threw a decent shot that looked like it was a little close to a tree. I even said it. I was sitting on my couch and I go, that could be an issue in his run-up. And Gannon comes in and just throws a dime. He puts it in the perfect spot, wide open. He has nothing obstructing him. It's looks like under 300 feet up that hill, wide open.
Yeah, the couple things to that. First of all, Gannon shot's 8, maybe 10 feet from Rick's.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that, as you just even as you described those, one impeded by a tree and it could be a problem, and then one is a dime and it's in perfect positioning, we're talking less than 10 feet from each other. And when Rick threw, and it landed there, I was 30 feet maybe from that disc landing, and I'm standing next to Perkins, who's doing the on-course, and I'm like, I don't like that. That's going to be awkward. He's going to be thinking that. Yeah, he's going to be thinking about that when he follows through. That's definitely not a forehand shot from there. So it's going to be a backhand, and that means he follows through right into the branch. Even if you have an open swing, you're just always hesitating. Nobody wants to knowingly swing their right throwing hand into some tree branches, even if they're just light branches. You're always going to have a hesitation there. And then sure enough, they all threw, and Perks ran over there. The 25 feet or so. He goes over there. He kind of takes a couple practice run up and mock swings. He's like, oh, he's good. He's got this. I'm like, I don't know. I don't like it. I just don't like it. I said, it's enough to think about. He's like, oh no, this is good. He's good. And then we sat and obviously watched how it all played out. Ricky said he went with a slightly different disc than what he thought he should have, maybe gone with, and it just went straighter. I mean, I'll say this. That was there. But Ricky, in his heart, and even after watching him throw and do it, it might as well not have been there. In that he had the shot, he really did.
Yeah.
He just uh, switched it out with a different disc, and then ultimately aired it. So if you're saying, well, that doesn't make sense. No, my point is like, I wouldn't mind putting Ricky in that spot again and you give him 5 more chances,
Oh, he's
four and
hitting
a half
four of
more
them.
times,
Yeah.
he's putting it there. Yeah.
It's just
So
that first shot where you
it sucked.
I
Yeah.
thought about it and I was sitting there. My wife is because it's Sunday morning. My wife is just sitting there reading the news or whatever on her phone, and I'm talking to her like she cares, which she doesn't. And I remember telling her, I'm like this is going to be really tough because I'm like, I think Ricky might take a standstill here, and if so, he's going to have to really kind of pick something a little overstable and swing it out wider. Because I'm like, because a standstill, you're not getting the power. You're not, and she gives two squats about what I'm out loud talking about, like I would to you, and then she kind of stops and watches, and then sure enough, like Ricky tries to do that little bitty run up, and I think that's what clearly messed him up mentally. Like
For sure.
he wasn't sure how much power he could generate with like the 1.5 step run up he took. I think clearly hindsight 2020. You give him that again, he's hitting it 4 out of 4. But even I think you put him there standstill, he has a better shot based on what he did that first time. But again, I mean, hindsight's 2020, man. You can't second guess that after the fact. You have to make your decision and go with it. And after Ricky went OB, we knew it was over because Gannon could pretty much get within 30 feet. Gannon thought about laying up and then give Ricky a 50-footer at a chance to win.
And I said to Perks, again, we had a discussion, and he's like, "Oh, Gannon will just lay this up." I'm like, I don't think he should, because the most deadly circle 2 putter in the last 10 years,
Ricky Wysocki,
who putts under pressure well, is Ricky frickin' Wysocki.
Mm-hmm.
You don't lay that up, take the par, stress-free par, and then put it in Ricky's hand to possibly force a playoff?
No.
Like, don't get me wrong, like 90% of the rest of the MPO field, maybe you play that, or you're not as nervous.
There's 2 people that I play a layup on if I'm Gannon. I'm sorry, there's 2 people I don't play a layup on if I'm Gannon. And both of them were on his card. Paul McBeth and Ricky Wysocki. Yeah. Like, those 2 guys, I mean, we've seen Paul hit clutch putt after clutch putt from that distance. And Ricky, who just hits long putts. Anybody else, I don't care who you are. Go search for the best C2 putter other than probably Gannon. I
was going to say Gannon's also on the list.
Exactly, but other than Gannon, and I'm probably thinking seriously about laying that up. Not with those two. Not with those two. You Ricky and Paul feed off that opportunity. Gannon clearly made the right decision. It would be having a totally different conversation if he went for it and went out of bounds. Like, oh, maybe he should have laid up, but there's no way.
Of course, that's the hindsight. But
I mean, just an amazing showdown in general and an exciting event overall. I think it's going to be sad when the beast is changed or gone or whatever they're going to do to it over the next few years. But if we had to do 4 at Tampere, I'm fine with that. Honestly, I would be 100% okay with that. That is a world-class course that I think has a lot of potential.
I agree with that. I feel like if we were ever to play 4 rounds over at the quote unquote monster, I would just love to see then, the possibility of at least a few holes have some different pins. That would be a good way to mix it up just a little bit out there. And I would say that pretty much about any course. I don't want to see any one course with 4 consecutive identical rounds at it, if that's ever the case. I just would rather not see that. I'd love to see a handful of different holes at least get switched up. More than maybe even the 2 we see at USDGC. They go they play ABBA, for hole 17, and then sometimes they switch up hole 16s, I think, positioning as well. Is there any other holes that they switch the pins? Anyway, who knows? They'll change it this year. But point is, I would love to see if anywhere from like 4 to 6 to 8 holes get slightly changed up, or in some capacity changed up. But that's not even a conversation to worry about right now. So
real quick, talking about holes, one of the other big conversations was obviously hole 16, the change to it.
Oh man, I'd love for the internet to chime in on that.
I
Just
want to
kidding.
know
I
if
don't.
yeah, we've already talked about it. I want to know if you heard anything from the players. Like that's what I care about. What do the players think about the change? Like we saw Ganon's, the players aren't as scared of that hole as they used to be. That maybe that makes a difference in how they're throwing,
Sure.
how they're attacking it, whatnot. Did you hear anything from the players, particularly about that hole?
Yeah, I can't say I asked about it because too much. Because I'm kind of over it and
Of
really
course, yeah.
sick about the conversation about it. Um, so I didn't maybe just yeah, I did ask AB specifically of all people too, right?
Who didn't make the
Um,
island either round again?
of all people, and maybe some would say, man, it's like the last person maybe you should ask. Um, no, I asked him, and I think he swore. I'll save that, but he doesn't like it. He doesn't like the switch. Obviously, it's cost him, burned him, whatever you want to call it. Last year, he said he did not like the switch to what it is. I only really had the conversation with a few other players
Okay.
who also said they didn't like the switch. Now, I'm going to say that was five or less. I was not openly looking for the conversation. It was always out in like the ether of the whole
Mhm.
event. I mean, I had people out in the course, randomly having an interaction with who I may or may not have known that well, and hole 16 inevitably came up.
Were they coughing in the middle of
Whatever.
your check-ins at all? Like when right,
No,
someone.
no, no. So it did seem like a lot of people. I feel so bad that I can't even credit to who said this, but it was a high profile player that said something to the effect of like, we love it because it's always in the back of your mind, and you have to get through 16, and everybody knows about it, and it can make or break your tournament, and that's the beauty of it. And I'm sure that sentiment is out there by a lot of people, and that's fine. That's fine. Here's just a couple of other perspectives that you could take or leave. One, I do believe that it is in line with, specifically in line with PDG current PDGA rules.
It is.
And there is something to be said about PDGA having a drop zone or not, and then being able to advance, so on and so forth. I'm not quoting any specific numbers here, but it's in that vein, right? Is that if you're going to have an island or if you're going to have this, you have to be able to advance. Da 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 da. That's the logic that I'm sure has been posted or talked about plenty. It falls in line with that. And one thing I think, this is just a guess here, I think part of that perspective comes into if you don't have it falling within the rules in that sense, and you're having to get potentially a waiver, which I'm pretty sure that is what they had to do this year, or it was worked in or grandfathered in or part of the agreement or not, or maybe not, obviously, is what I should say. It I think that runs the risk of not rating rounds.
Mhm.
Now you could take that argument and say, who cares? I hate ratings anyway. Ratings are stupid. Ratings are wrong. Whatever. But then you're having, I think, that same conversation, and you'll probably hear me rant that I think it's insane that we have a major that's not rated. And you can argue or not that you do or don't love the ratings, but USDGC is not those ratings that pop up and that are on the page right now. You can go find them. They don't actually go to any player's account. So Kyle Klein, whatever he shot to win the USDGC last year, none of those four rounds go on his rating. They,
He's
they
not
just
crying. He's
literally
not crying
disregard
about
them.
that. He can wipe it up with that
Of
check.
course, and that's part of that argument,
Yeah.
right? Like, who cares? We're not there for ratings. We're there for the championship and for the win and for the experience and for one of the greatest shows on earth. So I understand that argument, but I also do find it wild that we would host one of our four PDGA majors and have it not count in your rating. I think that sounds crazy. I think that means either the event is somewhat flawed or the ratings are somewhat flawed or both. Because if you're not having one of the four most prestigious events of the year,
Mm-hmm.
aren't playing by the rules of disc golf, to then therefore give you a rating, I will then bark about that at some point. So,
and I understand the
take
argument
it for what
of
you will.
I understand the argument that it is a more entertaining whole the way it was before. The threat,
Oh, 100%.
but
Sure.
as we've talked about in the past, to what extent? We have seen there are plenty of strange things that we've seen over the last 20 years that make things more entertaining. We bring up the most famous one, how at USCGC one year they wanted to make pretty much everything inside the bullseye get pulled out to 20 or 15 feet to make putting more exciting because someone didn't like tap-ins. Cool, that makes things more exciting. Should we be doing that? Like, when you start to break the rules of disc golf, where does it end? What can the PDGA, should the PDGA step away and say, cool, all right, every event, you run your own rules, whatever you want to do, you can do. That's fine. Guess what? We're going to make it so the basket, you can only come into the basket on one side. You have to come in from the north side of the chains, or you get a stroke penalty. There are tons of crazy bullcrap that you can do that at some point was crazy and now is, we've normalized the bunker rule. We've normalized, there are things that we have
Hazards.
and hazards,
Yeah.
and they've literally been added into the rule book because of the things that have been done in the past. They were not part of the rule book 10 years ago. So that's my only thought is, I understand what the entertainment value and what we're doing for ratings. I just worry that people already talk about sometimes events acting like a mini golf course. To what extent do we allow it to continue?
Well, and here is what I will give another perspective, and again, people roll their eyes or take it or leave it. I'm just providing thoughts and a little perspective. What we also see is when you have some of the biggest events in the world, like a USDGC, like a European Open, and even a Worlds, back in the day of two, of course, when you see them either try out or implement things that are not customary and or either, I don't want to say break the rules, bend or massage or challenge or kind of excuse themselves or get exemption of the rules, stuff that's not standard. When you see that happen, where does it happen next? At your local frickin' C tier, right? All of a sudden, you have a guy at a C tier taking a 21 on a hole because it was designed because we did this cool island thing and it was going to be a lot of fun. It was going to be super easy, but really it didn't happen. And this guy took a 21 and this junior took an 18 and whatever the case might be. That's I mean, you have to rewind 20 years ago.
I'm less worried
USDGC was
about
the
that,
first. But that's part of the problem, though, right? Like USDGC was the first event to ever add rope, which was wild to so many of us. And now damn near every tournament you go to has some rope added to it at some point, or some variation of it. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but I am saying when you see your idols that are playing at the biggest events that are the highest of sanctionings, inevitably people want to take some of that and then apply it locally. And let's face it, when you have 23 pros with an average pro rating of 972, they shouldn't be playing necessarily the exact same super wild, crazy, fanatical, I don't know, circumstances that our 1,023 average rated tournament is playing. There's just a lot of ways for things to go sideways, and that's exactly what happens. That happens. People take ideas from these events and implement them locally. And I'm not saying you can't ever do that. Of course you can. Take some really clever concepts and borrow and tweak or whatever. I just think then you're also opening a window of somebody saying, well, they're doing it at this event, PDGA. Why can't I do this at my event? Well, okay, it's grandfathered, or they get an exemption and they do this and they do this and we do this. Oh, and it's not rated. I also see how things can get sideways real quick. That's my point. Is
okay. Yeah, we've talked about hole 16 enough over the last 3 weeks. I think we can kind of let the subject Go until next year when people will be pissy about
Ask
it again next
Evelina if
year.
there was any scoring spread this weekend.
No,
I mean, I
don't
hate
want
to sound like a dick, but
Yeah.
like seriously, ask her. Right? We watched Kristen freaking
It's
pure the shot, put it on the island. We watched Silva pure it. I can't even begin to tell you how impressive that is to
mhm.
watch both of them do that. Evelina misses by a foot, goes to the drop zone in the most bizarre way, then also goes out of bounds and
Yeah.
lands on top of the hay bale. Ask Evelina if there's no drama or scoring spread on that hole, because there still has a chance for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, are you going to see a 12? No, you're not. I agree. You're not going to see a 12. Okay.
All right, let's talk about the last two things about the European Open, both of which involve Gannon Burr. Number one was we saw, maybe for the first time in my memory, a spectator get kicked out for purposefully razzing a player. Reports from different people on the course were saying that this player was cheering when Gannon went OB, which I think is fair game. If your least favorite player goes OB, I don't care if you cheer. I don't care if he's sitting right behind you, and it's not his turn to throw, and you're like, "Woo! Heck yeah, go OB! Yeah!" I mean, I don't care. I don't care.
It's no different than
sports.
booing at,
Right?
Right?
It is within the boundaries of. It might not be
a fandom.
There might be an issue, but I think it's okay. Now, when you're purposefully, as he was doing apparently, whistling and coughing in the middle of when players are throwing and putting, that's when obviously we have issues, because I don't want to say there's no rules, so to speak, but there's common courtesy. There is common courtesy that we are expected right now to abide. I mean, we clearly have a different issue than free throwers, who everyone behind the basket is waving back and forth. There are established boundaries that we can right now go with.
Yeah.
And so
currently we play by golf's boundaries, and a lot of other sports play by other boundaries. Yeah. It's it's loud at hockey, and it's loud at baseball, and it's not at golf. Yep. I mean, every darts is pretty damn quiet, right? So like, we don't need to go through the list of the million sports. Some are quiet, some aren't. You can argue if you want it to be or not, but currently that's where we are. You STFU, right? Yeah.
And this is
when people are throwing.
All I was thinking is, maybe this. I don't know if this was necessarily a disc golf fan or not, because this was at the Beast. The Beast is open to the public. It's a public park. It could have been somebody who just walking around checking the place out isn't really a disc golf fan at all. It could be someone that is a disc golf fan and just doesn't like Gannon, or is a big fan of Ricky or Paul or Niklas, whoever. I have no clue, and everything else is just speculation until, unless someone figures out who it is. But
yeah, well, we knew who it was. I watched him get approached. Yeah, I watched him get approached.
Oh, I didn't see
and
that.
And then escorted off the property. Which it continues to always bring in those, immediately, it's a public park, how can they kick a guy out? Well, I'm not about to argue with any Finnish players and or have any more interactions than I need with Finnish police, as I already did. So after the event, so what I want to know is, because I'm not aware of every, we'll say, sound and or distraction that he did make. I know that I was out there, and I think it was on 10 is when I thought 10 or 11. No, it must have been 10. I think he was kicked off right around then. At one point, I thought I heard somebody go ahem and like clear his throat, and maybe that's what you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
Or what that's the first one that I thought I heard, and I did think to myself, was that just a legitimate
poor
clearing
timing
and poor timing, or is this guy trying to give his version of a time warning? Like, that's honestly what I thought. I thought it was someone disgruntled at Gannon thinking, hey, dude, you're at 38 seconds or whatever he might have been. I honestly don't know. And that was this guy's way of doing that. And then I feel like it was on the very, if it was not on the putt, maybe it was on the very next hole or something, is where something else I think happened. I wasn't close enough to him, but I did turn to watch a couple people approach him, a couple people like pointing at him, like he was not hiding. Uh, Taller, he's older than me. I was going to say older gentleman, older than me, definitely taller than me. Both, that's not too
Well,
hard
that's
to
yeah.
beat. But uh, and sure enough, they started walking him down the right side of 11. So yeah, this I think all transpired pretty much on 10. So
Mhm.
wild, yes. I mean, I hate that I'm going to utter this into existence, but how far away from me, and not just in Finland, this could be anywhere. How far away are we from sudden death playoff at a world championships and someone loudly barks, coughs, whatever, 100% intentionally right before a drive or a putt? That we could argue literally cost somebody the world championship. Is there?
Oh, that's not an
That's a
outrageous
that's a
scenario.
that's a thing with 500 spectators. It's a possibility with 1,000. It's even greater with 5 or 10,000, isn't it?
Mhm.
Right? I mean, we're just literally increasing the odds of somebody saying, I give 0 Fs, I hate such and such player enough that I'll take whatever banishment I may get from either the property or ultimately maybe even disc golf to F up. Like, and I guess it could be said of golf or literally,
Mhm.
any other quiet sport. But all I thought is, I love this crowd out here, but with a crowd, even in the well behaved, insanely, you know, polite, and amazing crowd that's out there, it just takes one a hole, takes one disgruntled fan, one stand, so to speak, like of somebody else. Like, I, I, I so dread that possibility. I really do. And seeing the gallery and the fans, just the sheer quantity in Finland, that was like burned in my brain. Really, even before it happened
Yeah.
with Gannon, I just think all these people here. There's somebody's gonna have a cell phone go off when it shouldn't. Like, as amazing as these people are, accidents and silly things happen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A
You
kid
kids. I was
crying,
just gonna
or
say, yep,
or
kid, a
yelling, decided
dog
to
barking.
have a
There's if
meltdown.
dogs are out there. Yeah,
You
I
know.
heard some dogs. Like all of those things are possible. There's no way to prevent every single scenario. I get that, but
And
um,
then,
I don't know. I sit on a whoopee cushion or air horn. I mean, I don't know. Anything could
oh,
happen.
I will make that happen, Terry. Um, so the other thing with Gannon, and fine, this is the last thing we'll talk about for European Open, is his time violation call on the tee of 16. That
Mm,
he was called for, he was warned that his
hmm
drive on 15 was excessive time, and my understanding is people have gone back and looked, around 40 to 45 seconds.
hmm
He was warned. There was no stroke penalty. There was nothing. He was just warned. Do you feel like that is? I mean, we've talked about it here before. Is that something the PDGA should be doing at that point in time?
A million percent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
I
the other argument
here.
is the player. That's why is the PDGA stepping in? Why are they making it about them? Similar to a ref call.
Oh,
The
geez. Because
basketball in
they're
the last.
literally, shut up. They're literally paid
Mhm.
marshals on the course, which everybody keeps calling for.
I know.
Blah, blah, blah. We need an official on every single hole. We need 3 officials on every single card to watch every single person. They're literally there
The,
to make calls because nobody wants to call each other or themselves on the rules. So they're doing it. And now people are complaining that they're interjecting themselves. That's insane.
I
Like,
understand the
I don't
argument.
believe people.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. I'm just saying the argument is at that point in time on the final round of a major when he hasn't been called before,
What if he was called 3 freaking days earlier? Because he was.
I know.
Like, if it wasn't 1 or 2 or 3, it was at least 2 out of the 3 prior days. Him or his group were warned for time violations. And you know what? If you're getting a warning, I'm just going to put it out there. If you're getting a warning, you probably broke the rule prior times, and now you're finally just getting up to getting the warning, which probably could have came anywhere from 1 to 15 holes earlier. So if you're getting a warning on the 16th hole, I guarantee you went over 1 or more times before that. You were graciously not called then, and then you're getting a warning on the 16th. I don't know what more people want.
I'm with you, Terry.
What?
I agree. I don't care
I do
when
not
it
get
is.
it.
I don't care if he's on the tee of 18 and he takes too long to throw and they warn him. It was if it's true and it was 45 seconds, people are, and I'll play devil's advocate and say, maybe the PDGA shouldn't be getting involved at that point in a major. Let's let the players play it out. Blah blah blah. Similar to the argument of the last 2 minutes of a basketball game, fouls kind of come a little bit more, but whatever. The referees swallow their whistle, as the statement goes, which I disagree with in general. A foul is a foul. This was if he broke the rules. I think about what happens if he's called on hole 3. If he's warned on hole 3, nothing happens, and then he's stroked on hole 16.
Yeah. Like that's how it's supposed to work.
I know that's how it's supposed to work. I'm with you. I only imagine the uproar the PDGA would get, or the conspiracy theories that would be out there, or like, they were pulling for Ricky the whole time. You could tell, it was a PDGA guy who was the coffer, or like all this other crap I can imagine happening. My opinion, call the rules. I don't care when. Just do it. Be consistent with it. I understand. Maybe this was the first time he was over on, we'll say 15's tee. Maybe that was the first time he went over his 30 seconds. Maybe it was his 5th, and finally someone from the PDGA is like, we have to call this. Like, this is egregious at this point. And would it matter if he was up 5 strokes versus only up like 1 or 2 or whatever? Like, it just.
Good point. In all of those situations, somebody can twist every situation into, completely outrageous and unbelievably and egregious to, seemingly completely obvious and a no-brainer and a great decision. Let's just play pretend and say Ricky Wysocki takes, let's be legitimate and say takes 2 full minutes to throw that shot from underneath the tree. I mean, 2, for sure, full minutes to assess, to go back and forth. 2 full minutes to throw that shot under the tree, parks underneath. You know what the first thing everybody would be saying is, how is Ricky not called on a time violation? Blah, 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 blah. I know it was a tough shot, but he took 2 minutes and 3 seconds. And honestly, he should, in theory, at that point, get a warning if it's his first time. But everyone would be outraged. Or even better yet, what if Gannon did it, who's known for it? Ricky's not known for it, and Ricky was in a tough position, and Gannon's already known for it. I can't say it for the 100,000th time already, but I will. Like, I'm not picking on Gannon. I'm not picking on anyone that's slow. We're saying it generically as the rules state that right now you have the 30 seconds, and some people are more notorious for pushing that more often than not. And like I said, Gannon and or his group were warned earlier times in the weekend. Now, you may toss that out and think, I don't care. And that's fine. But it's not like any issues that have been, I feel like, addressed to some of our slow players, Gannon being one of them. He might be better. He still isn't always within his 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of players that fit that category. So I'm not picking on just him. He's just right now the most high profile, that's on the most lead cards, that makes it, quote unquote, the most obvious, because everybody around him's got a camera.
Does it
with
matter,
a running timer on it?
Yeah. Does it matter that that's the scenario, that everybody's watching, that's where the officials are? If this is happening on the 3rd card, I mean, we've seen second card comebacks. Does the second card have a set of officials with them?
They do. They typically do.
Yeah.
Especially come these events. And obviously, everybody on the internet can make the argument. Well, if there's officials on card 1 and 2, how's that
Yeah.
fair for the other 23 cards?
Yeah.
But now
We've
you're telling me we have officials watching, but you don't want them to call it because we should just let them play. Like, make up your mind, the internet. Like, what do you want? And I get it. I think somebody posted and said, "Well, is it inconsistent? Why aren't they called every time, every single scenario, every single player?" I can't answer that. I think there is a very, just like when you guys go out and play, when we all play golf, there's like this fine line of grace and or like personal acceptance to
Mhm.
it, to I think the whole scenario. You watch somebody in a wide open field throwing a stock 250-foot shot, and they take 48 seconds. You don't feel the same way about that person as you do about somebody that's buried in the worst lie that you wouldn't wish your worst enemy to have to throw from, and they take 48 seconds. You're probably not even thinking. All you're thinking is, God, I'm so glad I'm not in there. Now, I'm not saying that you can't call them on that. Of course you can, and by all
Mhm.
means, if you want to, go ahead. uh, Technically, by the rules, you should, but you have to look at some of these scenarios that they're not all 100% equal either. And somebody else said, well, repeated what I said, which is, if you're getting a warning by a PDJ official or some other official, I'm guessing you were either pushing it or past it in other scenarios. And now it was like you
Because
said, you
I'm
have to call
sure
it.
the PDGA is hoping the players call it, but
Of course,
the players aren't calling it.
of
So I could
course.
totally understand a scenario where a player takes 40 seconds. PDG officials looking around. Is anyone going to call this? I guess not. All right. And then the next time they take 40 seconds, the PDG officials like, anyone going to call this? All right. I guess I have to. I could imagine
Uh,
a scenario like that. I don't know for
let me
sure.
tell you a real scenario.
Okay, Terry.
A high profile player, a very high profile player, this weekend was playing with someone who was truly slowing down their group. Someone asked them about the group received a warning, generically stating, "Hey, you guys need to pick up the pace. You're falling behind, significantly behind the group in front of you." To which a high profile player on the card said, "Well, I haven't called them on a time violation. That's too uncomfortable." There's your, like, so what is it? Are we going to let players call these things on each other as we're supposed to within the rules, or are we going to let the marshals and these other people step in and then have to make the call? Like, you can't like have neither of them doing it, right? Because that's solving
Mhm.
nothing.
Yeah.
But the high profile player I'm referencing flat out just said, "Well, I'm not going to call them on it. That makes things uncomfortable." Okay.
Yeah.
You,
No,
you,
I'm.
no,
Yeah. All
none
right.
of you in the
That's.
group can be complaining, because if none of you in the group are going to call it on them, but then an official comes over, but the internet doesn't want them calling it on it, like, which is it? I just, we need to get off this topic because it's
I know
it's
it,
it's
it
so
it drives up it
it's just
drives
so
up your blood
silly.
pressure. I
No,
understand.
it's just so silly. Like, I get it. It's awkward, and there's things, and there's these scenarios, but and Gannon and Nico and a handful of others, unfortunately for them, have a reputation of doing it. So is it easier to notice when they do it? Yeah, maybe it is. There's only one person though that can solve that. That's themselves. Like, that's it. And I'm not
Mhm.
talking about any of them being bad people. That they just have to throw quicker.
Yeah. And for anyone that thinks that the PDGA should stay out of it, I just want
Then
to
what do you want
ask.
them to do?
No, I just want to ask how much time is too much? Like you said, if someone's standing, if you don't think they should call it at 35, is 45 the right number? 55 seconds? A minute and 5. At some point, people are going to complain regardless of whether you make the call or not. Let's move on to our other major of the weekend, Terry, because there was another one.
Oh yeah.
The Junior World Championships.
Oh wait, before we go there, let me
Oh,
just back up one more quick point, since
okay.
uh, the the turnout, and this is going to parlay into later, but the turnout in Nokia isn't exclusively because it's free. Because guess what? It's not free. It's not entirely free. It wasn't entirely free this year. The turnout there, I am so sick and tired
Uh,
of everyone saying, just have it free. That's all
internet
these
voice.
people who show up. Yeah, that's all these people just show up. That's why. Don't be such money grubbing assholes. There are plenty of tournaments that if you made them 100% free, I thought about this today. I think you could pay people, and there's still plenty of tournaments that are not going to get the turnout that we may have just seen in Nokia, for example. Like you could literally say, we're giving $1 to every single person that shows up, and I still bet you don't get $5,000 to give out to some of these venues that we have.
It has to do with the
not
venue.
just about being free.
It has to do with it being free, and it has to do with a lot of the fact that it's in the center of the city. I bet you we could get 5,000 people.
Finland's the most concentrated disc golf place on the planet.
I would be curious if we would even get.
Man, I wonder if a Taylor Swift concert would do really well at like a middle school gym. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it would. Huh? Weird. Like,
I don't think we would get 5,000 people if we had it for free in Central Park, New York. I
agree.
The highest concentration of people on that island, and you have it free, and you bring all the best players. I don't know if we get 5,000 people to show up.
I would bet we don't.
And so obviously, as everyone says, Finland is a unique place. It's in a great location. It's at a park where they couldn't probably charge if they wanted to because it's public, and it would be almost a nightmare to try to try to check badges and make sure that people are actually paying, because you can come in from almost any particular area in that park, my understanding is. So there are a lot of reasons why it's free, but I'm
just saying that it's not exclusively. Does it being free, is that one barrier that's not there, and does some of the cost prevent some people from going today? Absolutely. I understand that. I want to be very clear. I understand that. However, even if you made every single stop on the Disc Golf Pro Tour free to attend, I do not think we would still rival the attendance that we're seeing there. So, like, get creative with some other angle or something, but that's not exclusively why so many people show up. And I could quickly compare and contrast that with here in Estonia this weekend. There's going to be somewhere between 7,500 and 10,000 people that show up. And guess what? It's not effing free. It's not free. There are going to be 10,000 people that will come through the gates this weekend in Estonia, and it's not free. Period. So that, along with what I just told you about Nokia and Finland, like, it has everything to do with the people, the location, all these other things, and how the city or the country or the municipality or whatever embraces it, and where the players are and everything else. It's not just a dollars and cents things, because they're going to be charging this weekend very legitimate VIP prices and what I'd consider moderate ticket prices, but it's not free. And we're still going to see 8,000 to 10,000 people.
I'm excited to
probably the largest disc golf gallery we've ever seen in history, outside of the $50,000 Frisbee Whammo thing in the Rose Bowl, which I don't count that as disc golf. But anyway,
no.
All right, go on to the other major now.
Well, thank you, Terry. All right, real quick, we'll rattle through some of the winners at the 2024 PDGA Junior Disc Golf World Championships. Winning MJ18, no shock, Ryan Mon. I know he was the highest rated player there by 6 points over Lucas Carmichael. Ryan won by 11 strokes. It wasn't really that close after the second round, where Ryan bested the second place guy, Harrison Young, by 9 strokes, and then kind of just cruised down to win. So Ryan Mon, yes, brother of Jake Mon, who has also been touring. I think Ryan has even played a DGPT event or two as well. I don't know.
Isn't there like 2 or 3 more Mon brothers that I think are good too?
There might be.
I feel like I should know that, but yeah.
So
I'm just going to assume there are. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Let's just
yes.
assume there are.
So Ryan Mon, he took 76th at Des Moines and then 17th at the Casey White Open. Sorry, that's a DGPTQ series. He took 86th at chess.com. So he has played 2 DGPT events in MPO. He comes out junior under 18 and wins that. Harrison Young tied with second place with Lauren Buderbaugh. We're going to go with Buderbaugh. Lauren, thanks. I'm not going to try to massacre your name. Let's go down to FJ18, junior girls under 18. Kayla Hess wins this by a single stroke over Ida Emily Ness. Excuse me. I'll go the whole name if it's on there. Third place was Rebecca Don. Fourth place, Virginia Pokinghorn, who's probably the most well-known FPO or FJ18 on that list. And in fifth place was Trinity Bryant. So congratulations to Kayla Hess on your victory, and you are now a junior world champion. MJ15 winner was Austin Yoder. He won that by 2 strokes over Roderick Mayanu. As far as I'm going, FJ15 Teresa. Damn you, Teresa. Teresa Cuevas wins by 2 strokes over Shelby Cohen. MJ12 was Tanil Mehain, winning by 14 over Luke Sindal. So congratulations.
Yeah, out of representing good old Estonia.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yay. FJ12 was Ava Lutsenko. Second place, Nova Bellinger. MJ12, Nico Forbes wins this by a single stroke. A lot of really close battles at juniors over Nolan Waters. FJ10 was Sarah Wadsworth, winning by 18 over Hayden Harper. MJ8, Cody Bucher wins by 5 strokes over Finley Weaver. And finally, FJ08, Keely Bain wins by 76 strokes over Jolene Mathis. Congratulations, Keely, on your world championship. Her round, to be fair, her round rating is 545. Jolene's was 304. Keely shot a 581, a 581, a 603, and a 592. So all ratings above hers. Congratulations to Keely. Well done, our new junior world champions.
I admit I do not have the stats in front of me. It's Keely, not Kylie.
It's Keely, Keely,
Okay.
Keely.
Okay. All right. Well, yes. Congrats. I feel terrible that I know I had it all queued up in my brain to have a little shout out and a big well wishes to all of the competitors. It sounds like things went really well. Obviously, we saw a number of top pros there. Doing their thing and in some way, shape, or form involved in the week. So big shout out to all of them that were there. One, I don't want to go more notably, but notable guy celebrating his birthday today. So we'll give him the extra shout out is Avery Jenkins. And Avery there with his son. So happy birthday to Avery. But secondly, along those lines, Avery was telling me this is the first European Open he's missed in 18 years. And he said, if I'm going to miss for any reason, to go to my son's first Worlds in our home state where they reside, I can't think of a better reason either to not be at the European Open in Avery's case. So I don't recall looking at the stats for how he finished. He wasn't in your list of champions, but congrats to Avery and his son and all of the players. So many. I think about those moments that clearly those parents are sharing with the kids. The kids are having their own moment, but then the parents that are there and support them and encourage them to become our next superstars. And like I said, it was announced here at the European Festival that Estonia had won a junior world title. So that's how I had already heard about that as well. Brian Henniger had made the announcement, Guru, during some of the opening ceremony, and said how we're here in Estonia and
Kristen's
Want to
old
just tell
news
you
in
that an
Estonia. Let me
Estonian.
just tell you that there's a
Yeah,
world champion,
yeah,
a
I
new
know.
world champion in
I know,
town.
because it's not probably weird. It's not weird at all to go to a bus stop and then look behind you, and then there's her picture, like while you're at a bus stop. And I
Now,
don't know
in
if this
in
is the
your
case
living
at all
room,
of them.
that's normal, Terry, but not at a bus stop.
Yeah, yeah, not at a bus stop. And I don't know if this is true for all of them because I've only seen I think one or two. But somebody was telling me today that at least at one of them, it's like a picture or a poster of her, and then they actually have discs inside like the glassing, so it's like a 3D, like there's actual signature discs that are in there as well. And I'm thinking, man, do I break the law? Do I break one of those? No, but how cool!
That is
Like
really cool.
uh, the prime minister was here today. A handful of other dignitaries. I don't remember them all. I think the mayor and a few other people. Just absolutely incredible and insane, and obviously, yeah, as we see Kristen rolling around in her sponsored Porsche anytime she's here in Estonia. Just the fact that she's treated the way that she is here is incredible. So
I was going to say you
yeah,
could grab one
Brinster
of
is
those
also
smash
being here.
bags and send it to Avery because I know you and he were some of the first people that were really on the Smash train. You told me about him when
Yeah,
like the first time you went over there a decade ago or so, whatever.
yeah,
And you were telling me,
2013.
yeah, you were telling me how great they were. And now I've seen a lot of other players getting on board. But let's
I
see.
mean, if it's a good thing, it's a good thing.
Seeing as how you're talking about it, Terry, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming festival
Yeah.
and
So
the event. You're there right now. Literally up until about a half hour ago, they were still playing some of the games at the
yep.
course. I actually tuned into Disc Golf Network while we were chatting here and watched just a real little bit of it, their version of the All-Star game. So tell us a little bit about what we can expect this weekend.
Yeah, this is insane. I know I just went off on a tangent rant about it, but it's absolutely insane. So it's at the Estonian Song Festival grounds. Obviously, it's this massive amphitheater. A lot of you saw last year. They had the event here. Kristen had this crazy lead that she essentially squandered away, but still pulled it out on the last few holes to ultimately win here. Where then she was immediately met by I think the prime minister or some massive dignitary within Estonia who was here. And I mean, this is a DGPT elite event this year, handled just like Idlewild in a few weeks, just like the Beaver State Fling was. Whatever, it's a full blown event, and it's in preparation for it being a major next year. The course, originally designed by Seppo Payu, has undergone a little bit of a redesign since he originally had done some of it. So he had done a redesign for it for this year. I did not see all the holes, but I know that there are short tees, some shorter FPO tees uh, on some holes. There's, I believe, also some shorter baskets on a few holes, and then obviously MPO layout as well. So it's kind of a mixture of some things might be shared in the exact same, whereas some things are going to be entirely different with a shorter pin and or a shorter basket. I don't have all those stats in front of me yet. I'll know more tomorrow. Uh, it just I'm trying to think of an analogy for us, Johnny. I mean, I a lot of people have been to a place like Summerfest in Milwaukee. It's certainly not that much concrete, but just the fact that it's gated and that you have this opportunity for people to come into the festival grounds. But then I don't even know how many, a couple hundred acres that it must be, maybe in total or whatever it is, 100 and some acres. I guess that'd probably be a quick Google search. Um, uh, and then this massive amphitheater that's there. Johnny, you would cry like with jealousy of the overall just video and audio
Oh,
production that's there. They have they have a studio that is right on par with you sitting behind at Good Morning America and seeing what they have indoors there, with a panning camera and all the fancy lights and all of the a multitude of of boards and signs. That's what I'm looking for. Displays in front of the commentators. The commentators are all in this perfectly set studio, and that's all just for like some of the live action or some of the live broadcasts.
Mhm.
And then with the amphitheater itself, they have 6, 8 people just manning all the amphitheater sound and technical components. I saw somebody updating a spreadsheet that was updating something or other that was projecting onto a screen. The introductions for the players are legitimately on par with
Like an
an all
NBA
star
game or an
game,
All-Star game.
an
Yeah.
NBA all star game. They just wild, absolutely amazing. And then I think they said 45 sponsors. I'm surprised it's just that few for what it looks like. But you're talking about local Sportland. You're talking about some Nike. One of the major beer distribution, or I'm sorry, beer breweries right here in Estonia, that I might have to support.
Oh,
Puhala, I think it is, which
the
is funny
the
because the first time I ever had that, I was in Sweden.
the stretches you have to make,
It's
Terry. The stretches you have to
I
make in
know, I
order to
know.
please the world.
But then you have a lot of obviously your endemic disc golf companies, and whether that's Squatch and Pure Bags and Innova and Prodigy and so on and so forth. You have all of those, and then you have a bunch that aren't. And then they had a VIP area tonight because it was raining for a little bit. Everybody was good under this VIP. I just here's maybe the biggest takeaway of the couple of hours I was there tonight. I firmly believe that this weekend's event is the single grandest or biggest and potentially best disc golf production that we've seen in the history of the sport.
And you're talking
That's
on site.
I'm talking on site as the festival and event unfold. I can't speak to exactly what the live production will look like.
It's going to probably look something
Obviously,
similar to what everybody
Disc Golf
sees.
Network is here, but then I think there's something that's broadcasting maybe to a national television
Sure.
channel. I think I might be able to like turn on my actual television at some point this weekend and watch it locally here in Tallinn. The production and the grounds and just basically keep up on my Instagram is what I would say. I took a handful of videos tonight. Tonight was an exhibition that kind of had an all-star feel, right? That was the point. It was you had two drives off this big stage, you had two approaches, and then you had two putts, and it was all these teams. It was 8 teams of 3 people that were randomly selected, with the exception of a couple people. Just what they put on for tonight, and the fact that we had somewhere between 500, 700, 1,000 people, whatever the number was, 700 to 1,000, in my estimation, just for tonight, all of which paid to be there. They paid to be there tonight, and this is like barely scratching the surface of what they're expecting this weekend. I am so happy as a fan, as a promoter, as a whatever, just an enthusiast and ambassador, whatever, of the sport, that I'm going to be here to witness this in person, because I think this is going to be like no other experience. Like
Wow, that's
I've and here, like, I confirmed by asking a ton of our top pros, whether that's Simon or Kelvin or a Madison or a Ella or whoever else I talked to tonight. Everyone was like, can we name a bigger production than what's happening right here? And none of it. There isn't one. I've been to them all. Like, there isn't one. Like USDGC. Someone made a comment and said, "Well, I was at USDGC in 2012 or whatever." I'm like, "Well, it's first of all, USDGC has made some massively cool enhancements in the last couple of years. The vendor village, the VIP area, everything they've done has been incredible. The stage, the food trucks,
and they lifted
opening it up.
the event status to a new level in professionalism a decade, 2 decades ago, for crying out loud.
Of course, yeah. So, have they been cutting edge and right on the of doing that? Of course they have. We were just in Finland a week ago, or literally a couple days ago, sorry, and we talked about all those spectators, and that's obviously a really cool production that's put
Mhm.
on. It's not nearly as encompassing at the monster as it is at the beast. The beast has these people, but I don't know if, and then it had a vendor village and it had food, it had things. Don't get me wrong, it's just these grounds set up for such an experience because you're already at a place that's hosting professional festivals with tens of thousands of people. Like
Mhm.
whether it's next week or in a month from now, they may have 50,000 people on site. So these grounds like are built for why we're here. And is the course the toughest course? Absolutely not. Seppo was somewhat challenged, and in the fact that he didn't have unlimited space. He said we literally couldn't cut a single tree branch on the property until they went out to this one area where I think there's one hole that they carved out that's brand new. But everything else, kind of like you said earlier about going to like Central Park, like just imagine if they're like, yeah, put on a big event here, you can't cut a branch. You can use everything that's there. There's a
Mhm.
lot of beautiful spacing in Central Park, but you can't cut a single branch. I would think of it in that sense. So, is it going to look like park style golf? Yes. I think it's going to be good. People like the course, and then the first and the last hole are really unique in terms of the amphitheater, which I really hesitated and thought I wouldn't love, and then I'm like, oh no, I'm sold. I'm this just the amount of people that can be in the crowd and the gallery and in the stands and in the amphitheater for how this starts and finishes. I don't know. I cannot say it enough that every one of our pros tonight were just in awe. They're just like this is just the start of this weekend.
Mhm.
And so there you have it. I know that that's a really big uh, review or thing to preview to say about it, but I am fully anticipating this to be the greatest disc golf event production that we've ever seen. Now we can hope the play matches that. We can hope the weather is nice. There's a lot of things, maybe to be determined, but yeah, the start they're off to tonight, right now, is insane. And tonight was just a quote unquote exhibition matchup. It's wild. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing and to watching unfold in this beautiful city. And I remember somebody came up to me. She wanted to get a picture. She actually can't come back over the weekend. She's from like 2 hours from here. And I said, "Oh, you can't come back?" She's like, "No, I've got kids and work and all this other stuff." And I said, "I just want to be clear. How many people like that are here tonight, right now, and or this weekend are here because they're just disc golf fans?" And she's like, "Almost all of them." She's like, "There might be a spouse or two, but they're here." And I'm talking about 5 year olds all the way to 85 year olds, maybe not that old tonight. 70, 75 year olds though that I did see tonight. That are out here already taking it in. It's it's just insane.
And
It's
this
insane.
event is going to be broadcast on Disc Golf Network. My understanding
Yes.
is it's going to be the same crew that did the Krukel. It's not the normal. I don't believe it's the normal control room crew that does most of the U.S. ones. Although the U.S. guys did do the European Open, so it's going to be it's just still slightly different. But if you saw Krukel, you know that this will probably be just at least at that quality, maybe even a little bit better or different, depending on what they can patch in. And like Terry said, I obviously I don't know any of the details, but I'm excited to see not only just the event, the establishment, the whole kit and caboodle of phenomenal, crazy Estonians that love disc golf.
If you, I want to, your European Disc Golf Festival. If you go to Disc Festival, uh, their website's so professionally done and has all the questions that you possibly could want out on there as well. But if you go to Disc Festival, and I'm going to put it in the chat right now. It answers a ton of questions about things that are going on. Yes, it's listed as being on Disc Golf Network this weekend. I think the Pulsea crew, and that means Helsinki, and those guys will be switching the show as you were just talking about. MDG, More Disc Golf, who just makes some of the most phenomenal disc golf videos ever, are a big part of the media backbone to all of this. So it's going to be nothing but professionalism and uh, these absolutely stunning, just everything. I don't know. I'm so excited to see how it's going to all unfold. Um, I was going to say something else about the website that I found earlier out there. I know that's where they have tickets and information out there. I don't even know if VIP stuff is still available. But yeah, knowing that this is also a precursor to this being a major next year, I think is makes it so exciting because as someone said tonight, like if they're doing this now and then they're going to turn it into a major next year, and presumably the hopes of then hosting a Worlds within a few years of that, I just yeah, I've talked to Ralph and Silver are the two main gentlemen I've talked to from here in Estonia, and I cannot say enough about what they have going on. Tonight it was called the Delphi Presents Disc Golf Superstar Challenge. Carl Eric Tucker Band was playing, and that may not mean much to you, but I've been told that the Carl Eric Tucker Band is a very, very popular band. In fact, the woman that told me earlier that she wouldn't be here, I said, "How are the ticket prices?" And she's like, "Tonight, just to be here for tonight was 16 euros, which is about 17, 18 bucks." She goes, "Normally, just to see that band, you would probably pay at least 30 to 40 euros." She's like, "So this was a damn good deal tonight,
Mm.
even if you just came to watch the band play, a half dozen or a dozen songs." So, yeah. Can we spoil it? Do we have the winners listed yet, Johnny? Does
I
it show?
I haven't
Because I had
seen
to
the.
leave.
Yeah.
If I would have known that it was going to go this late tonight, because it's 11
I know
o'clock,
you
11:30,
would
and
have
it's still light
scheduled
out there.
SmashBoxx at a different time had you known,
I,
because
I
which
maybe
is
I
fine.
maybe would have sacrificed just so I could have seen the end of it.
Yeah,
I didn't know that it was going to go on this late tonight, so I
and you
left
can
as they were just heading into the semifinals.
you can check it out on Disc Golf Network if you'd like. It's out there.
What?
Yeah, Disc Golf Network recorded and was showing it. I saw some chat from Mo that said that it was surprisingly way more entertaining than he expected it to be. It's very similar to our All Star event, but just due to the aesthetics, the establishment, I think partially due to the format with the players and the speed of which it looked like it was happening, it made it way more enjoyable than what we have seen from the All Star. Because I feel like our All Star event I think it drags. It's a little slow. I think we could learn a little something and pick up the pace, find a way to really
Yeah, this
move
just
it
yeah.
along. But that's a whole nother discussion we'll have probably come at the beginning of the year when we start talking All Star event again.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with only having a couple of throws per person, the teams were challenged in like bracket format. So this team went up against this team. The team is three people, two men, one woman. So there's eight total teams, and then they kind of went against each other in bracket format. And then basically they're throwing from one spot. They'll ultimately go to where they're disc landed, kind of. They throw approaches on another spot, like back down the hill, and then they throw a couple putts, and then their quote unquote team is done. And then the band played in between the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and I think they're going to play right before the finals again. Which plenty of people, I'm sure, were just there because that band is in town and is playing. So I'm sure some people bought the tickets just for that. Like there's beverages and food, and it's another quick tidbit. Madison said she goes, "Did you go back to like the player prep area, which is inside the, we'll say, amphitheater?" By what she described it, I think of it as like going into the locker room, so to speak, of like an NBA team. It's kind of how
Mm-hmm.
I'm envisioning this. She's like, they have stuff in there. They have everything you could possibly have to warm up and to do whatever you need to do. They've got demo stuff. They've got free stuff. Like It just sounds like this insane thing. Oh, and on top of it, which I learned late tonight, this Delphi, experience thing, $5,000 was, or €5,000 was going to the first place team. So that's
Wow.
what, another what, 1,700 euros practically, or 1,600 euros going per person to the winning team. So basically there's like another $5,000
Yeah.
on the line that was free tonight to these 24 players. There was another, it was a five, I'm like, nothing for nothing. Show up and literally throw 20 good shots, and you and your team might be going home with each with an extra 1,700 euro.
Well, you're in Estonia.
I
One
don't
of
know.
the major sponsors is CoolBet. You gonna throw down some cash,
Yep,
Ter? You gonna throw down some
I saw
cash?
the Cool Bet as I was walking out. Cool Bet's mascot, which
Like a
is it
polar
like a
bear.
bear,
Looks like
polar
a
bear?
polar bear.
Yeah, was kind of being guided in. I'm not sure if the mascot quite has the the mask all figured out or something, but I felt like his two handlers, two female model types, were kind of holding their hand as they were walking into what was adorning the Cool Bet branding. So I don't know, Cool Bet's out there making bets or something. So yeah,
Well,
they're a sponsor, a major sponsor. I don't know. I'm going to try and get some post up on Instagram ultimately, at least here in the early goings, just to show you guys. And I feel almost weird posting it, knowing how much grander things are going to be
that,
come Friday, Saturday, and
that your
Sunday. But
Instagram isn't gonna do it justice.
no, and or even just
Yeah.
tonight. Like I feel like tonight is just such a
Yeah.
snippet, is just a tiny preview, and then it even rained on us while we were out there. Just a tiny preview of what this I we're gonna be at an event. Let's put it this way, kind of like in Finland. You're gonna be at an event that's big enough that you literally could lose your friends in a crowd, and like that doesn't happen often.
No.
And here it's gonna be spanning multiple acres. So uh, yeah,
If I'm
make sure
losing my
you're
friends, it's because I'm coughing in the middle of someone's backswing. Just
yeah,
saying.
yeah, intentionally.
uh, well, Terry,
All right.
I think we can wrap this up. We'll have a really quick after show.
Sure.
Both of us have stuff we need to take care of yet tonight. I just want to
Yep.
kind of ask you a few questions about maybe some of your adventures over there.
Yep.
But that's about it.
All right. Well, we'll close that out. Talking about European Open, of course, Tulsa Worlds and Junior Worlds. Congrats to all of them, and then also this little preview into the European Disc Golf Festival. I just cannot wait. So that's been episode 516. Somebody reached out just today and said, "Hey, where are you at on sending out one of the Patreon things?" I said, "Don't worry. When I get back, we'll get all caught up on those. But if you're missing one, old or new, do not hesitate to reach out to me, because we never want to have you miss out on that. So we'll have some extra drawings next week and get caught up on a few of those things as well. But I've got some to get out, that's for sure. So that's been episode 516 for Johnny V. I'm the Disc Golf Guy. We're going to take a really quick break. Then we'll come back and have an after show with a few more details and things going on from Europe and beyond. We'll see you then when you step inside the SmashBoxx.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxx TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. Terry, your audio is off. No one can hear you. Somehow Terry decided he was going to disable his audio. Nope, still can't hear you, Terry Bear. Let me take a look here. Is it on my side? No, it's not on my side. Everything on my side is the same, Terry. Well, welcome to the after show while Terry figures out his audio. Nope. This is what happens. You take like a 2-minute break, and Terry Miller loses his crap. I don't know how he does it. He didn't have to touch anything. And here we are. He lost it. Welcome to episode 516's After Show. There you are, Terry.
Yes. See, you can't doubt me. Literally, as we were exiting, my earbud said the battery was drained. So I swapped out the earbud, which should have just kept things rolling, but apparently it didn't. So here we are. Everything's working. Yes.
Like we never had an issue.
Yeah, we'll just ignore the previous, 120 seconds or so.
Terry, we need you to come home. The United States is falling apart without you. You've been gone for 3 weeks,
gosh.
And this may have been the weirdest 3 weeks in American politics history. I can only imagine what the questions you're probably getting overseas. People are like, Terry Miller, what is going on over there?
Yeah.
What's it like being overseas when all the craziness is happening here?
Well, I'm going to try, obviously, not to get all too political, but yes, it's a very fair question. First of all, what this continues to echo is that there is a lot more of the world that is in tune with what we're doing than even usually we know. Mm-hmm. And it is, to me, it seems almost crazy. And this maybe leans right into ego. It seems crazy when somebody from some other country, whether it's Finland, Estonia, or wherever, and they're asking in-depth questions as they sound like a reporter for American politics. Like they're asking in-depth questions to that degree because they know everything that's going on. In fact, it just so happened it was shortly after Sunday's round at the Beast. Tournament's done. Everybody goes back to their respective places to get ready for the Black Party, which is a whole nother after show. But when we're getting ready for the Black Party, and as we're sitting there waiting for one more in our party to join before we head over to it, is when another gentleman says to me, "Oh, Biden just dropped out." It's like, really? And I think it was literally breaking news. Maybe he just beat me to my, to the phone, but. And then proceeded to have a very in-depth conversation about American politics. He's from Finland and knows probably more than me. I can't say I had too many other discussions after that. Obviously, it's going on. No. Back up. The night before, I may have been out early or late, depending on how you look at it, depending on your frame of day.
I got a call from you, and to me, it was just normal time. It was like 5 PM or something. I get a call. I pick it up immediately. The first ring, I hear in the background, a lot of people having a lot of fun. And you're telling me it was like 1 or 1:30 in the morning there.
That's possible. Well, that wasn't the time I'm thinking of. It may have been closer to 5 a.m. And one particular person that I ran into, because it's Tammerfest and things are going on, big, whatever. One particular woman somehow immediately realized I'm from the U.S. And this, I swear, this is days before the news. She's just blathering on and on and on about Kamala Harris should be the president, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. So for her to be obviously pretty close to right, or that's what she's calling for, is that Biden would drop, that Kamala would be the put in. Like, it was just hilarious to me because that was like 2 or 3 mornings before any of the news had come in, and I think she was just kind of yelling into space about the idea of it, and she wanted to have my ear because I'm from America
Well,
and she's from Finland. It
I mean,
was it
you
was funny.
missed, since you've last been on the show, even you missed an attempted presidential assassination. You
Yeah,
missed
that's right. I wasn't home for that, was
no,
I?
no. You've been gone for 3 weeks. This is like you're.
I mean, I knew it happened. I knew almost
Yeah.
immediately, but I guess I didn't realize it's.
You,
Yeah,
you
okay.
missed the RNC here in your hometown of Milwaukee, which was
I did miss that
kind of
entirely. Yeah,
crazy.
and I heard some things.
Yep, you missed the Biden dropping out, and you missed the giant crowd strike issue where where flights, airports around the world were shut down. Delta is
Yeah,
still
thank
running.
God I was on a ferry that day instead.
Yeah.
Instead of a flight.
You're maybe not exactly wrong there, because Delta is still having issues getting people in and out. I've heard of people having to drive. There was a big conference out in Utah that the title industry puts on every year,
Yeah.
and it happened this past week. And so there were people that are like, yeah, I rather Delta said they couldn't get me there for another like 8 days, so I just drove the 17 straight hours to get here and things like that. And it has been, and thankfully for me, we don't use CrowdStrike. We use Sentinel-1 at my job. So I was walking around like kind of smiley all day on Friday, thinking like there's a bunch of IT people that are just going to be burnt out all weekend and whatnot. You've missed a lot, Terry. You've missed a lot.
Yeah, and I think I left per some of my buddies from this weekend. I think I left right around after an excuse me, right as a hurricane was coming through.
Something
Maybe
like
down
that.
in
Houston
Texas.
area?
I know that's yeah.
Yeah, they lost.
Yeah, I think
typical. They lost power
yeah.
for a few days. There was. It's typical hurricane stuff down there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really do hate the response from everyone that as soon as someone speaks well of another country or points out something that's great about some other place, the all too easy response from people is, oh, if you like it so much, why don't you just move there? I'll help you pack up your shit. You should just go live there. No, I mean, like, we could just try and do better. I mean, in some instances, well, I remember being in the Helsinki airport and just like fawning over it. I mean, it was just a few months ago. I posted and said, what's the nicest airport in the US? And because I was just at the Kansas City airport, which is brand new. And I do think it's beautiful and amazing. And then I couldn't think of an obvious, counter to that or an obvious comparison to that. And then I think about so many international airports that I've been to that are incredible. Helsinki's one of them. And I just think, man, is it too big to dream of nicer airport experiences in the U.S.? But as soon as you mention it, everybody tells you, why don't you just leave? So there's been so many cool experiences here, although I still don't know if I'm going down a one-way the wrong way or not. Sometimes there's a few signs that are just confusing, and like one in particular would make you think you absolutely should not be driving down that street, and it's really just a no parking sign. But I still don't know how they arrive at that being a no parking sign. It's a very simple sign. It just apparently means no parking, and it's taking some getting used to. Roads definitely are a lot windier in a lot of these places. But I was saying to somebody just last night, if you drove through
Just
a
have
good
Kristen
portion
drive
of
you
Estonia,
around in her Porsche.
yeah, if you drove through a good portion of Estonia that's not Tallinn, this ginormous city that it is, or the big city that it is, the second you get outside of Tallinn, it would feel like you're driving from Mosinee up to Sandy Point, and that's a very local reference to Wisconsin. It feels like most of like northern Wisconsin, lots of beautiful trees, 2-lane highway, and a bunch of small little towns you go through. Like that's the vibe. Drive through half of Michigan, you'll get the feeling. Drive through Minnesota, drive through, good portion of Wisconsin. Like at least when you're in Finland and Estonia specifically, to me that's what it kind of feels like. It's that I think is a very fair comparison.
Okay.
When you're out here, when you're not in one of their biggest cities, of course. So it's incredible. They all drive on the same side of the road as we do, so there hasn't been any problems there. But I did get pulled over because a camera caught me going apparently too fast. This is right after the tournament. Again, I had to get to the black party, so I can report to you guys. So I left the beast, and I'm in a tunnel at one point, and I'm thinking the cop. Well, I didn't know it was a cop. It was a motorcycle, and I'm like, oh, this motorcycle's kind of creeping up on me fast. I need to speed up just a little and get around so that they can get past me, just to get into the other lane, the right side lane, and just to have them pull behind me. Pulls me over, and a mile or kilometer later, I should say, and and long story short, gives me a warning for speeding. Apparently, though, I find out why no one speeds, because he said the ticket could have been anywhere from 500 to 1,000 euro, which are pretty close to dollars.
Yeah, that's just a little. I mean, the dollar's a little, I think, under that, but yeah, it's still.
Do you imagine though, like your basic speeding tickets starts at 500?
Not like I could imagine that if here in the States, if I was doing like 20 or 25 over the limit, like that to me feels like
you're getting to 300, 400, 500. Yeah,
sure.
But,
yeah, but not just wow. Okay.
It was it. So, and I don't know if that's for, again, wasn't real clear. And I think I got a little lucky because I had a rental car, and he made it sound like it would be more of a pain to write me one than to and have it go through the rental car. And I was like, okay. So I was good to go. But yeah, and here's a pro tip that is just worth everybody knowing. It was 7 o'clock at night. He didn't say anything about swerving or anything of that nature. In his hand, from his motorcycle, as soon as he came up to me, he had a breathalyzer unit with him. And I've been told that that's standard operating procedure, that speeding or otherwise, it may be very common. And I flat out told him, I said, I've had literally nothing to drink today. Like, that's going to blow, 000. And sure enough, he had me do the breathalyzer, and sure enough, it came up 000. But yeah, they obviously take all that very seriously as well. And there's a ton of public transportation that you should be taking advantage of, including trains and buses and scooters and Bolts or Ubers, whatever. But yeah, I was just coming back from the course at 7 o'clock at night, and it was I was in no danger of having any issues. I'm not much of a day drinker. So,
well, Joshua James says,
good to know.
Joshua James on our board says 15 over the limit in Wisconsin is only $175. Don't ask him how he knows.
Exactly.
Wisconsin is also the place where you can get 4 DUIs and not have a felony. So
yeah, so we're drink responsibly.
Yeah,
as they say.
Drink Wisconsin. Which was huge.
So
Drink Wisconsin made a crap ton of money last week at the RNC, because they were right across the street from Fiserv now, and they were inside of the limit. So many people just went to Drink Wisconsinably.
Yeah, makes sense. And we know Andy Braun, who works over there and has come up with some good products. But anyway,
yes.
So there was that. This is brought to you by Smash. I'll just get you the regular size bag here. Yes. Smash. For those at home, and I know you're thinking, well, who cares? It sounds silly. The best way to describe it is if you took, well, there actually is a picture of one, is if you took a bugle, for those that remember bugles, you took a bugle and then covered it in chocolate. And I would never normally think to do that at any point, but when they did it, and I had this 11 years ago for the first time, I was forever a fan. And now we see a bunch of other people onto it. Also, kind of think of it as like if you eat Crunch bars, it kind of gives you that like somewhat consistency of like a rice covered in chocolate. And now tons of disc golfers are understandably on board.
Yeah, makes sense.
I managed to get on the ferry. There's a bunch of other golfers and dignitaries and whatnot on the ferry. That was a pretty cool experience, just the fact that it's obviously the size that they are, and they go between Helsinki and Tallinn, and they go back and forth nonstop every day. And there's actually a couple different ones that can range from 22 to 75 euro. Obviously, you could take your car if that's makes more sense for you travel-wise to do so. Or if you want to just get a ticket, tons of golfers came over that way, as they should. I had the pleasure of taking the public transportation. That's something else that I love, and I know you're a big fan of conceptually as well. Is just how many less cars are out there in so many of these countries, and how many more people take very, very well designed subway type trams, railroads, regular trains, high speed trains, whatever it might be. It's just the amount of people you see out there walking these shorter distances and then taking advantage of all these insanely reasonably priced public transportations. I, I don't know. I love driving my car, but man, it is so uh, economically feasible to get around a lot of places for a really, really tiny sum of money. And another pro tip that I'm not adhering to this weekend is, if you're ever going to travel, and maybe this is all too obvious, if you're ever going to go for a month long trip, whether it's Europe or otherwise, travel as light as you possibly can, because when you do get on a few of those trains, like, things can get cramped, and you may have to lug something, 6 blocks or 12 blocks. 1 or 2 blocks might not be too bad, but you do enough stuff 6 or 12 blocks, because that just happens to be the one connection you got to walk. Yeah, I was I was second guessing a few of my decisions yesterday. But travel as light as you possibly can.
So this weekend, the European
Yeah.
Festival. What is your job this weekend at the European Festival?
Um, I am not officially a DGN contracted media talent, as we're referred to, this weekend. So I'm going to be working more so with the actual LOC, the local organizing committee. I had a few messages with Silver in the last few days, and Ralph. And tomorrow I have a meeting. Actually, there's a big meeting of things that are going to be going on. And it looks like I'm going to be doing some documenting of some of the things. I don't want to say it's a full behind the scenes, but that's kind of the angle that we're looking at, is a behind the scenes of what it's taking to pull off this insane operation. And clearly I'm 12 or 15 months behind their start point of when they really started getting going on this. But that's going to be more so the role. There's going to be a little bit of me just being a straight up fan, and doing some Instagramming and some very social media type stuff in that capacity as well. So I'm certainly not here on vacation, but it's not also at the same time a typical role that I fill on any other given weekend. So it's kind of a little mixture of those. And I know I already gushed about the event, and I'm excited about it, but the fact that I'm here seeing this as a DGPT event, as a precursor to the major, to which they hope is going to be maybe a bid for Worlds at some point, just to be there for this kind of history making process, I can't imagine being anywhere else now that I've already gotten a little taste of what's coming up this weekend. It's going to be insane.
I hope to see you on local Estonian news covering sports. That's what I want. I
was going to say, not for any other reason, right?
No, hopefully not for any other reasons. I hope you're there covering sports. not local gentleman gets a little too tipsy and stumbles onto hole 18.
No, I mean, I'm still working on my Estonian, but it's still limited to about 10 or 12, maybe 15 words.
Please don't arrest me. That should be one set of words.
Yeah, that's one I don't know yet. Hopefully, I don't have to learn that one at any point. But all right, I wanted to just quickly also look at. I know a few people had asked some questions up there as we ran throughout, and I don't know if there's anything that needs to get covered.
We've kind of touched on most of the questions. I've been keeping an eye on the board in general, just to see if there's anything that sticks out. As far as
you do not need,
questions.
I know this is a reference to last weekend, but you do not need DGN Pro for this weekend. Just your regular DGN subscription. I know that was a whole nother conversation. A lot of some frustrated people, some people that didn't know what was going on, some people that did know what was going on and still had to take, and that's all fine. but yeah, that was certainly a topic of conversation. I feel like over the last week is that just some confusion over the coverage. Um, yes, they played the European Championships at the same place last year with a different course design, though, is what I got out of Seppo. One thing that is more popular here, I've been meaning to Google it in the same neighborhood twice today, or a block apart from each other. This is the same country where I first saw my first ever Roomba version lawnmower.
We have one. There's
So,
yeah. I saw one. My family went for a walk the other day, and there was one about 2 blocks away from my house that was just this little green thing. It was just cruising on one of the lawns. I looked at it, obviously with a little bit of envy, but I also know that they're crazy expensive, like for a good one.
well, that was my follow up. Is the first time I'd ever saw one in person was when I came to Estonia last year, and I'm looking at this thing. I pulled into a gas station of all things, and it had a lot of acreage around it, so to speak. It was out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, what the? Oh wow! And they had two of them out there at the same time on this property. And then today, coincidentally, I was driving through a neighborhood, and sure enough, I saw two of them in two different. So I've only seen four in my life, I think, and they've all been here in Estonia. So the question is pros, cons, cost?
Well,
Are we just slow to adopt, or what's going on?
well, I think there's a lot of different reasons, some culturally, some not. These things can run anywhere from $1,000 for a cheap one to $2,500 to $3,000 for like a really
Oh,
good one. So, I mean, if you've got a large, let's say like a football field area, it might make sense for you to have one that just runs every day or two. You probably save labor costs on the actual person. Um, like I said, this one was running in the middle of the day. We went for a little bike ride with my daughter, and I was like, oh, look, they got one of
hmm.
those. And I kind of watched it for a little bit, and it was just slowly meandering around their lawn. Looks fine. Americans take their lawns very seriously, some of them. It's so much of a cultural thing for us that
Yeah, but
to
I
have the
would think so
perfectly
many people.
green. There's also, I
Yeah,
mean,
but I would think so many people would love to just press a button and it just goes out and mows their lawn.
yeah, they're also battery powered, so they're almost silent, so you could do it anytime during the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Terry. I would love to have one in general, just because you're right. Then it runs. You could have it run every other day, or every day you could mow a different area of your lawn. So it's always like, again, I'm fortunate that I've got like a 3/4 acre lot, so I've got a little rider that I cruise around with, and it takes me 40 to 45 minutes to mow my lawn. But I could see having one of these where you just pop a battery in it and it goes to its home and it just takes care of, and your lawn is basically always mowed.
Yeah.
I
I
know
mean,
they're really cool, but
yeah,
I
I
also think
haven't researched them at all. I just know I keep seeing them in Estonia.
we're probably me personally, I bet I'm 5 years away from one.
Hmm.
Just I think they'll go down in price. I hope they'll go down in price because right now $2,000 is a little expensive for a lawnmower
Sure, sure.
toy. I just feel like it's just there are so many other things I'd rather spend $2,000 on frivolously. Like
Yeah.
something where my wife wants a new refrigerator. I want a new little workout area. We have cabinets I'd love to build at some point. Get a new table saw. There are so many things I could see spending $2,000 on that just is not an automatic lawnmower, so I don't have to mow my lawn on weekends. But
I know, but
hey,
just think about all the time it frees up. Obviously, you're trading time for money at that point,
I
too.
I agree. I agree because I mean you got to figure. Like I said mine takes 45 minutes to mow. If even I can cut that, let's just say I spend 45 minutes a month now on my lawn because I'm doing trimming and edging and all this other thing still. But if I could cut it down, you're saving yourself that much time. Trust me, I would love one. You're talking to a guy who loves technology and loves to be lazy. So honestly, it's right up my alley. But eventually, I'll get one
Yeah, well,
eventually.
it was funny to see one of those. Cameras seem to be very popular in a few of these countries. which you can understand. You don't see a whole lot of police. I think I've seen, besides the one I interacted with, I think I've seen, gosh, have I even seen 3 police people in the 3 countries over 3 weeks that I've been over here. Just not constant presence everywhere at any given time, or needed to be in places. Obviously, a lot of these places aren't nearly as populated, but things like traffic accidents and things of that nature. Oh, I did see one in a grocery store parking lot. I'm thinking there was a minor fender bender that happened there. I saw that a few days ago, but yeah, of course, you continue to go on and on with all these little things that you notice are just so different than how we do things. Some better, some worse. I'll say this: I'm going to keep barking at this until this happens someday in my life. That my next freaking bathroom, whatever house I someday upgrade, downgrade to, whatever you want to call it, is going to have a heated floor in the bathroom.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
like
ours upstairs
so
does.
incredibly common. So incredibly common here in Scandinavian countries. Obviously, I get cold in the winter, blah, blah, blah. I'm not an idiot. But why is that not absolutely commonplace in Wisconsin? I mean, okay, so it's not in Florida. That I get.
It is with almost all new construction. Like almost everybody these days are putting in heated flooring. Ours isn't a heated floor, but we have radiant heating in our house, as you know. And so it actually does run in the floor of the bathroom. It also obviously heats the bathroom. But it's not like crazy warm, but it is nice in the winter. I will say that. But yeah, almost all new construction these days has like a radiant, or it has some sort of heated floor element.
You're doing it wrong. If you live,
I'm with you.
If you live in a place that gets any legitimate amount of snow, meaning it's at least that cold come wintertime, and you're not putting or having some kind of heated floor. This includes me because my place is much older. You're just doing it wrong. Like that's something that's just I don't want to say is a given here, but it certainly seems like it. Now I'll reverse that and say they're a little more stingy when it comes to having either like room air conditioners and or central air. Again, I understand the logic to that. It typically isn't quite as hot as what we experience in a lot of our states in the U.S., but 74 is not 74 with no breeze isn't comfortable in my room when I've had some of that scenario. So air conditioning seems to be certainly a lot less prevalent. So I guess you're getting warmer feet in the winter and a little warmer sleep at night in the summers. But yeah, we need that everywhere.
All right. Well, Terry,
of course,
at some point, maybe you'll move out of the condo you live in, and you and I will we'll put in some heated floor.
That's what we're gonna need. I'm trying to think of other odds and ends here. It's been a wild couple of weeks. Thank you guys. I know some people have been a little confused as to where and what's been going on, but Johnny, I know Dustin holding down the fort, and honestly, next week is gonna be a quick turnaround for a lot of these players. Even Madison Walker's not playing this weekend because she wasn't planning on being here. She ended up staying for a couple extra days. I think she said she's leaving Friday, and she wants to make sure that she's all good to go and has fully readjusted by next Thursday in order to do commentary at Ledgestone. And I feel like everyone's different, but I feel like that's a very gracious amount of time. And we'll see if these players that are coming back and going right to Ledgestone, I think that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for them because a lot of them aren't going to leave till Monday. And yes, you pretty much gain the day coming back, but that means it's an Elite Plus event, so they're playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, well, that's not too bad, but there's going to be some adjustment. That's my point. So.
Yeah, and I know there's going to be some special stuff. I don't know if it's been announced yet, so I'm not going to break any news here. But there's going to be some extra video stuff on TGN for Ledgestone. So sit tight, keep your eyes peeled. and I think there is going to be a little bit an extra thing of fun. Because
I didn't know that.
I just got an email about it.
I do know. Okay, I was just going to say one thing I can say is I know that I received an email today saying that Ledgestone has their own app, and because there's a million things going on, I would recommend you probably download it, because otherwise you'll do what I do, which is just like text text somebody or Nate or whomever and be like, "Hey, when's this happening?" Every answer will probably be in the app. So I literally already downloaded it. So it has schedules, courses, things of that nature. Caddy books I saw in there. It's going to be relatively easy from a DGPT perspective of just, the two courses where the FPO and MPO are at. But if you're at all involved in the event in any other capacity, I would definitely download the app so that it can answer all those questions. So,
yeah. And looking at the schedule, our fun extra thing that it'll be broadcast next Tuesday. So sit tight, keep your eyes open. We'll see what happens. Terry, we need to close this out. Right. You and I both have things to do.
Yeah, we do. Yes, I may or may not meet up with. There's some golfers doing some stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, thank you guys for coming along for the ride. Sorry, that's a lot of rambling from me, but I haven't been here in 2 weeks, so you got extra rambling. Enjoy this weekend. I know the times might be still goofy for you guys to take it all in, but I hope you enjoy anything and everything that comes from this weekend. I know I'm excited to report back with what we saw when it's all said and done. So, Johnny, thanks for the flexibility here, and thanks to all the viewers and listeners and watchers, live or otherwise. Thanks for adapting and being flexible as well. And glad to be with you guys again for the night. So I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Well, with that being said, that's episode 516's After Show. I'm Terry, signing out from Estonia. Johnny V from Milwaukee. Thanks for having us and tuning in and being all part of our Smashy community. We appreciate it and love you guys. We'll see you next week for 517 when you step inside the SmashBoxx.